All right, welcome live and direct
Well, ooh,
to what's up?
ain't ready yet. Hold on.
Okay, my thing said it was live streaming.
We are live and direct, man.
Live and direct at a matrix near you.
Third,
Today, welcome to an exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast. Where today we're doing this live, unedited, uncut, raw, and direct. My brother, my other co-host, the man who put the man behind the lens, the man behind the whole operation. My brother, I just, how you doing?
hey man, I'm doing well, man. I don't got my specs on today, so I'm kind of making
No
the
glare.
adjustment, man. you know, but I'll be honest with you, so I'm doing very well, man. Fresh off vacation, man. Excited to be back in the town. Excited to be doing this live today, up to episode number 32, Entrepreneur Chamber Podcast, with your two favorite co-hosts, SOSA for the people, and I just. So yeah,
Yes,
my
sir.
brother, I'm doing well, man. But how about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. No complaints, man. God is good. Just here pushing forward, man. Never looking behind, always looking to the next day. Yesterday was great, but tomorrow is never promised. So tomorrow we got to go get it. We got to make the promise we want to make. And I just want to say I'm happy to be here today speaking to all our members, all our constituents, and all our listeners to the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast. Today we're coming to you live. We're going to discuss a few things, a few questions that we've been asked in our Facebook group, and then we've also been asked here on the streets. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that. This is an open discussion. Everyone's welcome to jump in. Please chime in, because as always, we please help us empower us so we can help empower you. So today we're talking about one of the questions that I know that I received, before was, all right. So if I had $2,000, what should I do with it? What if I had $2,000? What, and I want to get into business? What should I do with it? I honestly, I don't know how what you feel about it. But I honestly would say, probably invest in education. Take that $2,000 and maybe take that, and you might not be able to start the business with that $2,000, but you can start to get the education and start to equip yourself with the necessary tools that you're going to need to hopefully one day be successful in business. And I think that can be achieved in a lot of ways. If you look online, there's always things all the time. But you could seek mentorship. You could buy books. You could buy a course, a business course, or some kind of entrepreneurship training, or some type of mindset training. There's so many options out there that I think you'd probably be better off, in my opinion, seeking to get that education first, because it's something that you're going to embark on, that you're going to kind of need, that I would suggest anyway, to equip yourself with as many tools as possible.
And you're not telling people anything wrong. Because as a quick testimony, my particular story, when you say, invest that in education, I kind of think of the education and training almost as the same thing. Some may say I'm parsing or playing semantics, but in my mind, so that education and training is pretty much the same thing.
Could be,
And
yeah.
that's what I
I
and
agree.
that's what I did for my own business. Like when I first started out, I started out in the commercial cleaning industry with Jam Pro, who is a master franchisor, and you have to buy a franchise. So I had roughly about $2,500, $3,000. And
Right.
when I say training, you go through a 5-week training program with Jam Pro prior to stepping foot inside of any account that you're going to clean. So to your point, my $2,500, $3,000 was the education. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
In the form of training
Right.
prior to stepping foot in the account. And I always say, we could have another topic, whether independent or go through a franchise. Some people say go independent. Some people say go franchise. I'm not opposed to either one per se, so, but just speaking about my story, it's paying dividends to this day. Just that basic training and that 5 week training that I had with JamPro and invested in education prior to me even picking up a rag, a spray bottle, and cleaning any customers.
Yeah.
So I think that training, learning, education, it falls under that same umbrella. And I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And you know what? That's a great point because that's another. Yeah, right. That's like skill training. You're looking
Mm-hmm.
for you're looking to acquire a personal skill, or you're looking to learn a particular trade. So you're right. You go and invest in those classes. They might have classes. You might want to be a plumber. Might have one of your own plumbing business or your own whatever contractor business. They have classes for that. So
Right.
you have the ability to take your money, invest in that, and for a lot of people, that is a lot of times I I would think also too that your chances of success are a little bit better because you're getting training on that particular instead of you flying by night. At least you have, even if you're flying your business by night, you have some type of conceptual idea of how that business is ran on an everyday basis. Like let's just say you want to get into medical transport or whatever. You might want to maybe get a job in the medical field, right? Prior to doing that, so you kind of know how it works. So kind of like how how to run it, so that when you do start the business, you have a leg up, or you don't have to go seek that person that knows how to do it because you already have a basic knowledge of it yourself. And then obviously there's things that you could learn as you go. But I think that's an excellent point, and that's a lot of what we're talking about. You could either invest in your mindset, or you can invest in a particular skill in which you're trying to learn.
And prior to me, even what led me to go the Jam Pro route, just to keep everybody up to speed, I went out with you a
Right.
handful of times. Like, you had an
Yep.
account in Princeton, the big school in Princeton,
Yep.
a few daycare centers I went out with you.
Yep.
And that was, to me, at that time, I knew I wanted to do something with myself. I'm not saying that I wanted to get in the commercial cleaning
I'm
industry
sure you
at that
probably
time,
did. Right. Right.
but that was a good
But it
taste
triggered. Right.
into
It triggered some thought.
entrepreneurship
Right.
for
Right.
me.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? To the point where I was like, you know what? I can do this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I do like the way things
Yeah. It triggered your
are
belief
being
more.
mapped out.
It triggered
That
more
this is
belief.
more up my alley. Exactly.
Right.
So I think what you're saying is so true, man. You definitely want to, like you said in the beginning, whether that's through mentorship, if you're going into transportation, medical transportation, like your point, you want to learn about medical and transportation. If you could do both initially, understand how transportation work as a whole.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I think the overall point that you're making is so sound, because you're just ringing the alarm. Like, don't just jump in there haphazardly, no
Yeah.
matter what you're doing. You know
And
what
I
I'm saying? Educate yourself.
And you know what too? I think sometimes too we kind of like overthink it, but if we think about it, all right. So let's just I know a lot of people are trying to get into the trucking business, or are looking into that particular business, right? So I'm not an expert in the trucking business. I would never say that I am at all. But just common sense thinking, I don't know if I'm right. And hopefully someone in the trucking industry is listening.
Well,
Can
I'm a former truck driver,
All
so
right, so
I'll
there
let
we
you know a
go.
little
You know what I
something.
mean? What am
I
I
did it
talking
for
about? I
about
got the
six
truck
years,
driver right
7 years.
here. And I gotta
Yeah.
say that prior to between the story that brother I was saying, prior to that time, he went and what he do? He went and did a paid training to learn how to become a truck driver,
A truck driver, that's
and which
right.
is a job that he did, which is something he did for a few years and
I
did
did it
very
for
well doing it.
six.
That for
Yeah, I did it
six
for
years
six
and did very
six
well
years,
doing it.
man.
Right. So
Yeah.
if he wanted to start a trucking business, right, he has an idea of what needs to be done. He knows the cost of what it's going to take. He knows roughly, and getting to my point, like I would think, not being a rocket scientist, you could maybe tell me. I would think that one of the things that I would probably want to do is I would probably want to try to get a job or some kind of training in the logistics field, because I personally would want to know first and foremost before any load is ever agreed upon if that load even makes sense, and what's the best ways for me to map my routes so I can maximize on every dollar before I even get that first truck.
Absolutely. I think all of that due diligence is going to pay forward in your profit margins. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you're it's due diligence. You know, you're going through the process versus going through the motions,
Right.
if that makes sense. So I agree with you in that aspect. Even like for me in the truck driving industry, prior to that, I had to before I got my CDLs, that was like a 5-week training course. But I think I completed mine in about 4 weeks, when I went to go take the tests. I was grinding gears, but I didn't stall the truck out. So they
That was
passed me for
important.
my
They
class A.
passed you. He
Yeah.
no, he could go.
Yeah. I remember the lady told me in motor vehicle, she was like, when you get with a company and you drive more often, you'll stop grinding gears. She was like, the main thing is don't stall this truck turning corners or rolling down the road. But she was like, I could deal with grinding gears. You'll get better over time. So, but that was training, that we had to go through in order to obtain our CDL. And that was a worthwhile investment because I still have my CDL now. I don't
See
use it, but
that?
I still have it. I always renew it,
See that?
so yeah. And like you're saying, those educations, whether it's the certificate SOS, because you're, want to be a mechanic, you want to be a plumber, an electrician, all of these educational certificates will allow you to set a premium price as well, because
Right.
you have some formal training and experience, classroom experience, education behind what you're doing versus, you're like a mechanic under a tree. Like, I never worked for a company before. I didn't go to school for this, but I grew up with my dad. He fixed cars. So I learned to fix cars, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think even most skilled mechanics at some point still go to school, even if the first person they learned from was their father who was a mechanic. You know what I mean?
Right. No doubt. That's true. That's true.
So
That's true. And you know what too? We like there's a lot of things out there too that don't cost a lot of money. There's things that there's a lot of places that will help you learn some of these things. Like you said, I did also too. Like that was my first kind of business training. Was commercial cleaning. When we got into our financial business, like I can offer people through our financial company, an opportunity to learn business, get, be licensed, be a license in the financial field,
mhm.
for, basically, $150, $25
Right.
a month. I can get somebody to do that. So there's companies, that are just like, the company that we hold our license through, that you can go. We happen to hold our license through Prime America, but a lot of time New York Life or State Farm, whoever you want to go to. I'm not just gonna always sway you my way. I'm always gonna give you the advice. I'm always gonna tell you what I believe, and I'm just gonna always show you the facts. And at that point, you always make the decision. At that point, but there is always an opportunity. My wife and I are committed to not only opening, creating opportunities for ourselves and for our family, but also creating opportunities for people that we come in contact that that we like to try to help, that we like to try to hold hands and both kind of see ourselves through this this forest called life. It's not easy, but the more people that you can hold hands with and lock arms with, a lot of times it's a lot easier, to get through some of these struggles that we're gonna all find, not only in business but in life as well.
Hey man, and I think when you become successful and then, you're measured as far as your levels of success, one of those attributes, in my opinion, has to be, how have you impacted others' lives positively? And it's not about hand feeding them or enabling them, but just saying, here's the fishing pole. I saw you maybe trying to fish with a stick and a piece of string. Well, I'm gonna hook you up with a real fishing pole with some real
Right,
fishing line and some hooks. You know what I mean? Now
right.
go get some worms. The lake is over there.
That's right.
Maybe the first time I show you how to cast that line if you're not familiar with it. But better than you fishing and then bringing them the fish. That's not really helping people.
That's
You
right.
know, some people. Well, I'm not even going to get into that side of it, but in general, I just think that to your point, when you're successful and you're on your way to being successful, that part of that obligation is to help others. And again, like, it's not even all about material wealth and everything. It's like, how are you going to impact your immediate family,
Yeah.
and those that you're giving more opportunities to? And all of that, I think, comes from, again, there's so many levels of education. So when we're talking about investing in yourself, investing in your business, so there's self-education, there's, investing in, the education before you start your business. But me, Sos, I think that you want to invest in yourself first. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
And enlighten yourself first before you can help others.
That's right.
But
That's
once you
right.
help yourself, then you're more capable of helping others.
That's right. That's right. And
So,
not to
I
mention
think that all is inclusive in that whole aspect of, prior to starting your business,
that's right.
invest in education.
Also too, you'll have more credibility too, with the people that you're trying to help. If they see that you came, damn, this, he came from the mud, he came
Right.
straight from, and they know that you came from the mud, and they see where you're at and see what you're doing. Of course, I mean, they're gonna, there's, they can be inspired by that. But more importantly, if you say something, they're more apt to listen to you because they know that you've done, that you've had some level of success, where you're at, or as opposed to where they're trying to get to, or in correlation of where they're trying to get to. So and that's really what it is. So I think a lot of times, like, to your point, we can't help nobody if we can't help ourselves.
If you
Like,
can't
we
help
can't tell
yourself.
somebody to do something when we're not doing that ourselves. We're not, when we're failing ourselves, failing in our business, failing in our life, and failing in our marriage, failing whatever. You can't give somebody marriage advice when you're failing yourself in your own marriage, or you can't give somebody business advice when you're failing yourself, in your own business. You know what I mean, yourself. And and success is sometimes hard to get to, but you have to always understand, your level of success. First of all, for any business owner, being in business is a success. Once you're making money, you're successful. Now, understand, failure and setback are two totally different things. We in business, we all have setbacks, but failure is, that's it. You don't feel that you accomplished what you were trying to get to. You know what I mean? So you failed yourself. Like, you failed. You didn't reach. You didn't reach the very, or the first or the second or the third milestone that you set for yourself. And at that point, then you can say, okay, that's a failure. But listen, we all in business. There's going to be setbacks. But I think that's why it's crucial, and this is why it's good that we're talking about this, because education, learning about these tribulations, learning about, reading about people who have been successful in business prior to you, learning about, some people that have really made it. I'm talking about the people that have really, made it in business that we all look up to. Reading their lives and seeing what they did and what their mentality is. I think all that, can only help you. It can never hurt you. It can only help you.
Absolutely, man. Learning to read, and especially in business, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, one who's self-employed, shit for that matter, an investor, you know, we understand just the concept of reading, but we're talking about comprehension and communication. as it
Right.
relates to business reading
Exactly.
and educating yourself. You know, the levels of that comprehension and communication, because from reading, you know, you're going to learn to speak professionally. You know, from reading, you learn to be confident, and, you know, it's hallmarks of a good communicator, you know. And that's what helped me because I'm not a lettered man. I don't have a
Right.
college degree. I never even went to college.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I did understand at an early age the importance of reading. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, I understood the importance of mathematics and I understood the importance of reading. You know what I
That's right.
mean? Like, that was to me like what I needed to
That's right.
know as far as school education went, you know. And then the older I got, so I understood that, yeah, there's reading, you know, your basic reading, but then when you're presented with complex contracts, let's say sticking with business, or simple contracts, do you comprehend what you just read? And one marker or way of knowing if you comprehend what you just read, can you articulate what you just read to someone else? And
Yeah. Right.
then
Are
make
you
it
reading
so
it, or are you just,
basic
or is it
that
sinking in,
a
or you just reading it? Right.
yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
make it
Right.
so
Are you
basic,
learning it, or are you just reading it?
or you just reading it, you
That's
know.
right.
And
That's right.
sometimes for me, to be honest with, you know, myself, you, and those of our audience that's listening, so sometimes I got to read something 2 3 times to
Yeah.
really get
Definitely.
the full understanding of it. Like, hold up, I think I missed something. Some
I think it's
things,
very
you know,
good if
I'm
you.
guilty of skimming through it. You
I
know what I
think it's
mean?
very good that if you have a book or something that you read when you were younger and you
Yeah,
really liked it and you really thought it was a
yeah,
dope book, to read it again at, at your level of maturity that you're at now. And a lot
yeah,
of times, man, you'll be amazed like how certain things you didn't see or now you
right,
understood and you can correlate it
right,
to what your own experiences. I mean, it's very powerful. And another thing that that we were talked about or we were asked about. We had an episode a few episodes back. We were talking about AI, and so one of the things was what are basically Bill Gates had a warning out there with AI, and basically I guess they were talking more about that. I guess they wanted us to elaborate more on that. Um, where you at with that? You got something to add on that, or where you're at with that?
yeah. I mean, I think with the AI, there's, I mean, first of all, it's here.
Yeah.
You know, and there was once the
Look at
question
what he
of
said now.
who's going to win the AI race.
Right.
And I thought about that before, and I said to myself, I don't think it's really about who's going to win the AI race, because I look at that like the arms race to nukes. And it was like, what type of world are we going to create as a result of AI? The same way, what type of world was created after nuclear bombs were, you know, countries were armed in the arms race. I mean, because
Right.
there's always a race to something, a race to space. So, you know what I mean? So there's always who's going to get there first. But I think it's more about then what happens, you know,
Right.
and that's the point we're at now, you know. And I mean, me being an eternal optimist, but a
Yeah.
realist at the same time, I just think it's like everything else, man. It's going to work wonders in the hands of the right people,
Yeah.
and it's going to be detriment to the world in the hands of the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just the way the world is. You have good actors and you have bad actors. You have good people and you have bad people. You know, some willfully, some unintentionally, but I think that there's going to be unintended consequences, you
Yeah.
know, of AI. You
Yeah.
know, there are some consequences that they know about. So the one that I always bring up that relates to business is, you know, by 2030 is going to replace upward to 300 million jobs worldwide.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the consequences that we know about. So my thing is now, so it's okay, what are the unintended consequences of AI? The X factors that we don't even know about. And
Yeah.
guess what, man? Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But again, man, I'm me personally, I'm a firm believer of humanity. I just feel like I don't care, and I'm just kind of making light of it. Even if we got to form the Avengers out here, man, I think we're gonna be. I don't think, hey, humans, we just got too much pride, man. Our egos,
Listen,
so
something's
like we
gonna
can't.
give. Something's
Come on, the
gonna give.
robot telling you to go in the
Something's gonna
house
give.
or AI.
Something's gonna give. And I think this is an issue that's it's going to end up being like a hot button issue as time goes on. It's going to be like a button issue in
Mhm.
society and Congress is my thought. But I just want to read a little bit what he said. So Bill Gates, look at this article real quick. So in the post titled "The Risks of AI Are Real," Man, Gates discussed 5 risks from AI in particular. First, enter AI generated misinformation and deep fakes could be used to scam people or even sway the results of an election. Second, AI could automate the process of searching for vulnerabilities in computer systems, drastically increasing the risk of cyber attacks. Third, AI could take people's jobs. Fourth, AI systems have already been found to fabricate information and exhibit bias. Finally, access to AI tools could mean that students don't learn essential skills such as essay writing, as well as widen the educational achievement gaps. This reflects or even worsens existing bias, but did not discuss the inequalities. They also, earlier this year, Gates, along with other tech leaders, they signed a public statement stating that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. That's a pretty strong statement right there.
Absolutely. And, I always say, and I was in the former part of what I was saying, was bringing a little levity to the conversation, but I'm glad you brought it back to a more serious note. But I definitely hear uh, them ringing the alarm, but these are the tech companies that are the forefront of creating the AI. So in that aspect, it's like the Frankenstein thing. You know what I mean? Like it's the monster that you guys created.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now that the genie's out the bottle, what are we going to do now? I still think that there's going to be a lot of human enhancement with
Yeah.
AI. One point that I wanted to speak on was the biases, because I did read about that as well. And my point with that is, so like, for example, I use an AI app, right? It's called Right Cream. And Right Cream is not endorsing his live, or it doesn't endorse the Entrepreneur Chamber. But if you are listening, Right Cream, if you want to endorse, holla at us. But anyway, I use this app, and they have a chat bot on there. It's called Chat Genie, and you can put in question into Chat Genie, and Chat Genie basically scours information that already exists. It's not as if it creates new
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So if it's already showing biases,
Yeah.
that's just highlighting that
What's already
there's
out there.
bias information already
Yeah.
out in the
That's right.
Ethernet.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Because all it does is, instead of you having to flip through 50 websites to compile a research, whatever, it does it for you. It scours those 50 websites, get the most pertinent information based off of the premise that you type into the AI. So, which would have took you 4.5 hours of research, you can now wrap up in 4.5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I wanted to address, because there's already bias in the system.
I'm gonna tell you right
So
now. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. I'm pretty much concluding what
Yeah.
I was saying, but my point is that there's already bias in the system, and
Yeah.
that the AI is just gathering, putting together information that already exists.
Yeah, that's. I
So
mean, I was just thinking what you were saying. I was looking at this thing. I tell you, the 3 words that really stick out to me in that statement were
mhm,
were mitigating the risk of extinction
Mm-hmm.
from AI.
Mm-hmm.
Extinction, right? That's a big word.
Mm-hmm.
From AI, and then this should be basically put up there on a scale with, on a social scale with pandemics and nuclear war. These are
Right.
all things that can lead to extinction. So he's basically
Absolutely.
correlating our survival with AI. So that's a statement that I never really took the time to really sink in with me. And now when I look at it, that's a strong thing. And if that's the case, I really feel that what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a huge discussion as we go along. It's going to be like the X-Men, when I talk about mutants or no mutants. This is going to be like that. It's going to be like AI or no AI, or like try to regulate in what, I mean, because it's the only way. Either that, or you're going to go to basically we're basically a slave bot society where the robots do everything and we get paid some kind of, I mean, which I've heard talk about, which is kind of crazy. But now I see why those conversations are being had, and it almost feels like if that's the case, something has to step in here because man was made to run this, walk this earth, not
It's given dominion over all things.
not
You know what I
robot.
mean?
That's right, not robot. So I think now is a time where and we speak of the last days. It's things like this that really highlight that, man. We are very well in the last days.
And for me, and this is just my opinion based off of my own accumulated facts. When I think of, extinction, I think of it as the man that we know in humankind as we know it today. So I don't subscribe that extinction in the sense that it will wipe out all of humanity. You know what I'm saying? But without going too far into the woods with this one, I agree with you about the last days that was written of, because again, we know that we were in the Middle Ages before. We know the beginning story allegedly with Adam and Eve. So we, by theory, we're in the last days. We're in the last sector. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a changing of the guard. It's more allegorical extension in that sense than it is literal, I think. And that's just and again, so I'm just an eternal
Yeah,
optimist. So
right.
that's just
Me
my
too.
way of thinking about it.
Me
You know
too.
what I'm saying? That
Me
I
too. But
think
I
is
pay
more
attention
allegorical.
I pay attention to the finer things, though, to the finer little
Man,
points.
because I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, and I saw this movie a super duper long time ago, man. It was called The Surrogates with Bruce Willis. I
Yeah.
mean, this movie is like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was the Oculus glasses. His wife had cancer, so she stopped working, and she would go into alter reality where she was healthy.
Yeah.
So she spent so much time in there. She wouldn't eat in the real world.
Yeah.
She
Right.
wouldn't do
Right.
nothing because she was happy mentally in placebo in the alter
And the
reality world.
alter
So
reality, right? Not the
you know what I'm
reality of
saying? Like,
right.
she didn't have cancer. So that world was perfect. It was
Right.
80 and sunny every day. You know what I'm saying? It was always fields of flowers, and it was just a perfect world. So I do see AI going that way for the dissatisfied with this world, and those of us or those people that just don't want to deal with reality, man, as it is now. Because you see people snap every day out here, man, that can't deal with this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, that's how I look at AI. I don't know if I kind of went out there a little bit too far for all of our
Nah, man.
listeners. If
Nah,
you
it's
think
dope.
I did,
Nah,
go
it's true
ahead
what
and
you said.
drop something. Let me check over there, and let's check the comments, man, and just see if
Yeah.
somebody feel that we're on to something, what we're saying, you know. So what are your thoughts, like, a little bit more as far
No,
as the
I
AI
just
and
think no. I
everything?
think honestly, I agree with everything you said. Me too. Like I'm an eternal optimist, but I do look at the finer points. What a lot of times allow me to see what always ain't right there in front of you, kind of see, a little bit, what's kind of hidden in the trees a little bit. So, seeing those words, I ain't gonna lie, did raise an eyebrow to me. But, like I said, I believe in the Most High, so I'm always gonna I'm always gonna roll with that and kind of just put it in those hands and just keep pushing. But I do pay attention certainly, so I can prepare myself
Absolutely.
and my family accordingly.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, and this is the ultimate responsibility, and it all to me ties into, business, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, someone who's going against the grain, you have to be aware, you have to be paying attention, you got to be multi diverse, you got to kind of know what's going on in the secular and the non-secular,
That's right.
because you're dealing with people from all shape, forms, and fashion out here,
Yep.
and the reality is, and this is kind of a perfect segue into, um, how we always kind of chop it up at the end of our episodes,
Yeah.
the AI thing. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because again, I mean, you're what you just read is coming out of the mouth of those who basically are the ones creating the
Created.
AI.
That's right. That's right.
So like we're hearing it from the horse's mouth.
And right from
You
the
know what I'm
horse mouth, you
saying?
ain't
It
gonna
ain't like
evil
somebody is
scientist.
somebody in the dungeon that's or in the cave that's making AI, and they're like, yo, I'm just letting y'all know, but like just it's gonna be crazy, y'all. So we heard. They're like more or less telling you, to
Yeah.
the point where it's now the tech companies, if not done it already, they're soon to be sitting in front of Congress. So
Yeah.
and now they're going to be sitting in front of like the UN,
Yeah.
those people, and the world now is like, hold up, now do we need to put the brakes on this right now? What's really going on?
I
So
can see a lot. I can see definitely see that this is going to be a hot button issue as time moves on. But as time moves on in this episode in this live session, um, we certainly there was a few other questions we can't don't really have time to get to them because
well,
now it's
I do. I'm sorry,
okay.
so if I may, because I kind of really wanted to get and see what your
Okay,
thought was on before we transition. I apologize, my brother,
go
but we
ahead. This
do
is
have
live,
one
baby. This is
question that I
we would
do
have
want
edited
to.
that, y'all, but this was live.
Thank you for being so gracious, sir. But this is one question that I did want to find out what were your thoughts on, kind of tying into the podcast episode. Why is reading so important for business? So whether that's reading contracts, self-educating, self-improvement, success, like, what are your thoughts on why is reading and comprehension so important for business?
I mean, I think reading first of all is important. I think that if you have children, I strongly encourage that you read with them. As little babies, as little kids, because I feel like reading is like the pathway to like everything. Um, as when you first of all when you're learning, I think there's so much that you could learn, and it's no coincidence that the kids that read or read very well or read at a low at advanced level when they're young end up being more successful educationally than their counterparts. So I think that all ties hand in hand. When you get into business, the better that first of all that you can read to understand what you're reading, the better that you can understand to read these contracts, the better that you can understand to read your business bylaws, what you are responsible for as far as insurance, as far as your responsibility as an owner. Once you hire your first employee, everything changes at that moment. You're no longer, yeah, you still technically a mom and pop, a small business, whatever that is, but you're an official business now because everything changes. Your responsibility level totally shifts. Your liability totally shifts. So the more and more that you're abreasted, that you're have knowledge of, And the more that you have a better understanding of it, I think can only help you out. So, hell yeah, reading is ultra important in not only business but everything that you do, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And to kind of land me back on what you were just saying, as a business owner, reading related books as far as business goes, you can get some people reveal secrets, top tips, and atomic habits, things along those lines. You could receive strategies, tactics, helps you develop
100,
necessary skills of
100,
communicating and, to your
100.
point, comprehension. So
Yeah,
I think there are so many benefits to reading, whether that's expanding your vocabulary, it helps you with cognitive decline as you get older. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
yep,
I'm not going to make it seem like I'm one that, picks up a book and read every day, but in
right.
some shape, form, or fashion, as a business owner, I read every day. So
That's
whether
right.
that's emails, you know what I'm
Right, you're reading
saying?
something. That's right. That's
I'm
right.
reading, I'm reading something, you know.
Right. But also
So
goes
I may
along
not
with
be
what we
reading
were,
a actual book every day, but I'm
no
reading
doubt.
something, and it's
But also
above
goes
basic
along.
reading. You know what I mean?
It also goes along with our first point too that we were saying. You know, goes along. You know, with what we were talking about. You know, like, if you can't, if you don't have enough money to really go ahead and start your business for real, and you only have limited resources, I think it's better to go get that maybe some books or something like that because those are things that are don't cost a lot of money, but you can learn so much before you even take your next step in your your business journey.
Absolutely, man. So there you have it. For those that are now listening to the Entrepreneur Chamber podcast,
Yeah,
you have your two
live, direct.
favorite co-hosts, SOSA for the people, and I'm Brother Just, and we are live today, and we're talking about, business, and we're talking about educating yourself. And if you had $2,500 and you're listening to us, and we're speaking about using that money, a portion of that money, prior to just jumping off the ledge and starting a business, invest in educating yourself about what business you're looking to go into, whether that's e-commerce, how to sell on Etsy, how to sell on Shopify.
That's right.
Don't just open up a Shopify store tomorrow and then say, oh, I'm going to
That's right.
blow up
Learn
in two
about it.
days.
Learn
You
about
don't
it.
know
Go pay
nothing
for a
about
training course
Shopify.
on it. Somebody knows how to
Yeah,
do it. That's right. Go
exactly.
pay that man some money.
Yeah, yeah. So like, like the brother Sosa saying, go get a $50 book on, how to master Shopify, or you get other people's testimony on how well they did in e-commerce, transportation. You want to be a truck driver, you're going to go to a truck driving school to get your CDLs, because there are some companies out there will put you behind the wheel of a tractor trailer, 18 wheeler, 70,000 pounds with just a regular driver's
Yep.
license,
Yep. Definitely, man.
and you don't have no formal training, which is a travesty and a disaster waiting to happen. You know what I'm saying? So, to the brother's point, I think, reading, and not just on a basic reading level, which is great place to start, but meaning and comprehension and communication is what Sosa and I, if I may, Sosa, is what we're speaking about today.
No
You know what I'm
doubt.
saying? So,
No doubt. No doubt.
other than
So
that, my brother, what else you got? What else you
that's
want to
it. I
speak
mean,
to
I
the
just
people about today on this live?
man, the only thing is I'm hoping somebody's in there letting us know, what's going. How many. Man, I need to like one of these hip hop 50 concerts, man. Some of the shows
Yeah,
I've already seen, but
yeah.
I'm looking for a hip hop 50 concert, man. I don't know if you know any but that's what I'm looking for
Well,
right now.
it's one that I haven't seen. You did see, and you told
Yeah,
me this. And if I have a chance to go see it, I need to. I've seen the Wu perform up close, like on literally on
right.
stage with them. I've never seen Nas perform, but the Wu and Nas are in
Gotta go
Jersey,
see that. That was dope.
coming up. So yeah, man, I'm definitely thinking about that one.
That was dope.
Or I want to say it's either Labor Day weekend or right before Labor Day weekend. LL is doing the Rock the Bells, um, and it's more like a festival, in Queens.
Ooh,
Yeah, for the 50th celebration of hip hop.
now
And I
that's
think
something.
it's safe to say that Uncle L is going to be the pinnacle of the celebration of the 50th
Let
anniversary
me
of
tell you
hip hop.
something. That's
You know what
something
I'm
I'm
saying? As
interested in
far
seeing.
as who's putting it together, because I've never, thus far, there is not no industry, meaning like labels came together and created one big thing in celebration of 50th anniversary of hip hop. BET did with the BET Awards. But as far as I know, LL Cool J
I'm
is
definitely
having
with that one. I'm
Rock the
definitely with
Bells
that one.
Festival
I'm
in
definitely with that one.
commemoration of the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
I'm definitely with that one. Well, listen, there you have it. All our listeners, all our members, and all our constituents. If you're looking for a Hip Hop 50 concert, go check out the Rock the Bells Festival. It's going to be Labor Day weekend down in
Don't
Queens,
quote
New
me on
York.
that. I believe it's Labor Day weekend.
Well,
It's
don't
either
quote us. Don't quote us.
yeah,
Don't
yeah
listen. It's
right.
sometime late in the summer. All right, this we do know
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes,
Sometime late in
yes,
the
yes,
summer. Go check
yes,
that
yes.
out. Go if you follow, LL. Go check that out, man. Because I'm
That's
definitely
right.
trying to get to that for sure. I hope my brother I makes it to that Wu Tang Nine joint because that's definitely official. Is there anything that you want to add here, I?
Nah, man. I mean, at this point, I think we can go into our closing remarks. Once again, this was a great episode. Anytime that you and I can get together, we can reason, we can share our experiences with our audience that we're building here on YouTube and soon to make that debut on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's always just a wonderful thing, man. It helps elevate me. It's still sharp and still. And I just recommend that whoever is out there in this YouTube sphere, if you're in business, you're thinking about going in business, keep a tight circle. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, what my man Fab would say in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, man, I'd rather have 10 lions than 100 sheep, man. So have
100.
your circle tight, man. Have a good
100.
network circle, man. Brothers that you can build with. Y'all can understand. Y'all can have disagreements and
Yes.
still be respectful to
That's
one
100.
another. You
That's
know what
real.
I'm saying? And still treat each other like men. And should anybody cross the line in that circle, guess what? The other person is there to check them. Say, hey, man, I don't appreciate that.
That's really
And
real. That's right.
that's what real men do out here, man. And the tide is shifting, so I really feel it,
Yeah.
man. Like, I'm walking around the community, I'm building with other entrepreneurs. They hear about what you and I are doing here in the town. For those that don't know, quite sure you don't know, but we're from out of the Trenton, New Jersey area. And we hear the buzz around town, man, as far as people appreciating what we're doing and what we're bringing to the table. If you haven't followed us already on Facebook, check out the Entrepreneur Chamber Facebook group. We get comments there, we get questions there
Right.
all the time, and we get people that really appreciate the uniqueness, the angle that SOSA and I are coming from. And I hope that
Right.
everybody, just appreciate it. We're doing this from the heart. We really want to see all two succeed, but specifically, the Latin, the Black, the Brown, the Hispanic, Latinx. I'm gonna just say it all. My brothers, my sisters. We really are doing this for y'all wholeheartedly. So, thanks for tuning in. And that was my closing remarks. So I just went right into mine.
No, that was dope. Listen, man. Listen.
Yes,
Listen.
sir,
Ain't too
man. So
much
I'm gonna
more
pass
I
it off
can.
to my brother Sos,
That's
man. So
Listen, ain't too much more I can add on that. That was perfectly said. That's realer than real deal. Holyfield, what brother I just was saying. Listen, man, there's nothing I'd rather be doing than to sharing and building on these various different topics that that we choose each and every week, or whether it's edited or live raw, uncut and unedited like it is today. There's nothing I'd rather do than to be sharing our thoughts and our journey with you, the listeners. As we said, we do this together, and that's what this is about. That's what this podcast is about. So without further ado, let me just handle the formalities. This latest episode was sponsored by JMD Janitorial and Ambrose and Associates. We'd like to thank all our listeners, all our members, and all our constituents. And as always, please continue to help empower us so we can help empower you.
Be Saul and be victorious.
Peace.